In a world filled with information, where do you turn to get straight talk about retirement, investments, and your money? Lock it in to the longest-running financial talk show in Arkansas, and let us help you build the bridge between information and application. Real financial change begins right here, and it starts with you.
It's showtime! Woo!
If some holiday downtime has you contemplating your retirement, you should make sure you are ready, both financially and emotionally. We're talking about the 6 stages of retirement on today's Get Ready for the Future show.
This is the Get Ready for the Future show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of the Get Ready for the Future show. We'll call this the Thanksgiving weekend edition. We certainly hope you are having a great time with friends and family. You're full of food, probably full of football as you listen to us. If you're watching us live as we record on Wednesday, none of that's happened yet. But we know that some of you are checking us out on podcast, on radio. Great time to experience some time to think, I guess, about all to be thankful for. We talk about that every time this year. We should really be talking about it every day, quite frankly. But, you know, we probably should start the show there. And we're going to talk about the 6 stages of retirement. But I am thankful, first and foremost, for the group that I have here on this table and the entire GenWealth team. Great place to be. We love what we do, bringing you this content, but also helping our clients achieve real financial independence every day. It's a great purpose for us, and I'm thankful for that. I'm gonna let you guys go in just a second when I'm finished, but I'm also thankful. I'm also thankful to live in a world where we can put money into a system that over a long period of time has created more wealth for the average person than any other instrument, any other vehicle in human history. I think that's really, it's unfathomable to think about how much wealth has been created just by a sound financial plan and a continuing discipline of investing over time.
I always think about work as being fun. I don't think about it being work. I get up in the morning and I'm excited to come to the GenWealth offices because we affect life change here. We don't just affect, getting a paycheck or providing a little bit of a service to somebody or anything of that nature. We affect life change. And I love the phrase financial independence because, Teresa, that's really what we try to deliver to our clients every day.
Well, and that's where this passion for me started. I don't know if you remember this, but the reason I'm sitting in this chair is because when I joined the team as the bookkeeper, I used to have to bring John and Janet different reports. And I walked into John's office one day and I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he took a few minutes and showed me what you guys did. And I thought, wow, if I had known this stuff 10 years ago, I'd be in so much better shape right now. And I got the opportunity to learn more purely as a bookkeeper, which I love our emphasis on education. And then eventually that ignited my passion for helping others too. So I think it is such a gift to be able to work somewhere where what we do changes lives.
Yeah, that's amazing when you think about that, how many of us have learned on this process as well to do things better in our own lives. We've been very transparent on this show about the mistakes that we've made over time, right? So it is about eating what you're cooking, right? I mean, we preach it, but we try to live it every day in our own lives as well. When you think about that and all those things to be thankful for and the opportunity it presents, you have to be able to seize that opportunity. And I think that's why we're on every week, but particularly this week, because I know people, we mentioned in the open there, you may be thinking about retirement. Maybe you were thinking about it long before this holiday weekend. A lot of people are thinking about that life after work moment. Whether you call it retirement, we like to call it financial independence. It's the moment in time where you are prepared to live without a job. You may not. You may actually work part-time. You may do something you love and not worry about how much you make because you are financially independent. It really is a life-changing event that has to be prepared for both financially and emotionally. We're going to kind of zero in on the emotional side of this. Part of our content here talks about other life-changing events, like marriages, divorces. I think about death of loved ones. I think about job change. It oftentimes, it's worth pointing out, that a life-changing event is really what drives someone to come see us, right?
Yes.
It takes that to trigger or jolt sometimes the recognition in someone's mind that it is now needed to plan for my future. But if you think about those other life events, guys, marriage, divorce. Marriage is probably more planned for, but divorce often sometimes comes out of nowhere. Job loss, job change, maybe not prepared for. The death of a loved one, certainly not. You don't see that coming. Retirement, financial independence is something you can really take the bull by the horns on, and if you plan and prepare for it, it can be what you want it to be.
And even if it's not on your radar, though, you should be preparing for it, because the statistics tell us that many retire long before they planned to. So even if it's not something you're saying, this date, I want to retire, you should certainly be prepared so that if it happens, you're ready.
Scott, I think a lot of people are probably a little bit concerned these days about, whether financial independence is even achievable, if retirement is even achievable, because we've got a lot of uncertainty in our world right now. And that can cause people to get almost deer in the headlights, just frozen with fear, just stop and think, okay, I'm going to wait for a better time. Your financial security is really not borne out in the great times of the bull markets and things of that nature. It's really borne out in the decisions that you make and what you do in times like these. And that's why we're actually putting together a live in-person GenWealth Academy workshop. First one we've done post-COVID, and it's coming up on December 6th. I know it's not the most convenient time for everybody out there because it's right between the holidays, but we couldn't time it any better than we can right now because of all the things that are going on in the economy and the markets.
Yeah, it's our financial security town hall. It's coming up at the Delta Hotel in Little Rock on December 6th. The doors will open at 6. 6:30 is when the program will start. We'll talk about the future of Social Security. We'll talk about the financial markets. It is absolutely free to attend, but we want you to reserve your spot because we do have limited seating. You can learn more about the event and reserve your spot by going to getreadyforthefuture.com/academy. And really the things we're going to talk about, we know that they're on the minds of the people who listen to this show. We know they're on the minds of our clients. We hear them in the client meeting room. We're going to take it out of the meeting room from the radio show, bring it right to this town hall, and allow you to ask your questions. I think that's the key part, too. It's not just going to be about us talking.
Oh, no. We want to hear from you. We want to answer your questions. We want to give you the information that you need to feel like, okay, now I am prepared to move forward. There's always reasons for you to pause and say, oh, well, I don't know if now's the right time. Really, what you have to do is you really have to act with facts over feelings. Feelings don't get you anywhere in investing except broke, quite frankly. And so be sure to sign up for this workshop. Go to getreadyforthefuture.com/academy. It's absolutely free of charge. Great time. We'll have some food there and have an opportunity for you to do all the things that we've just talked about. Doors are open at 6 o'clock. 6:30 is when the presentation is. We'll have questions and answers right after that on December 6th at the Delta Hotel in Little Rock.
So what are the 6 stages of retirement? We talked about that at the open. We're going to talk about those today. And the stages, again, are focused on the emotional side of being prepared to go through a time of life without working, without having that goal of getting up, or that routine, I guess, or discipline of getting up and going to work every day. So number one, I'm going to outline, or I'm going to lay out, I guess, all 6 of these, and then we'll go through them and talk about them. But the first stage is the pre-retirement stage, and that really is the planning time, and that's where it's very important to be able to shape retirement in the way that you want it to be for you. The big day is the second stage. That's the actual moment where everything is celebratory, right? It's the smiles and the handshakes and the farewells as you leave your work life. The third one is the honeymoon phase because it's exciting, right? It's new. You're free to do whatever you want to do. No schedule. And that can be exciting for a little while until you get to the next stage, which could be disenchantment. You may feel like, so this is it. What am I going to do with all this time because this isn't really fulfilling me? Reorientation is the next to last stage of retirement. That's about building a new identity. I don't know that everybody goes through that, but some people might if you go through those 2 prior to that. And then routine, which is kind of built on moving on. So let's start with pre-retirement. And, during your working years, I think it's hard to get a vision of what your retirement is going to look like. I think people who are, I think this may depend on the person, right? I mean, you have different people. I think I'm probably more of a visionary thinker. Like I think in big, broad things. I can dream pretty easily about what I want life after work to look like, but not everybody can really get a grasp on that.
Yeah, I have a favorite saying. People, if you stood somebody up and from birth and just fed them broccoli, they'd never know that broccoli is, kind of okay. They don't really know that ice cream exists, and they don't really understand what
They'd be
else.
thinner, but-
Yeah, they would be thinner, but they don't understand what else is out there. And I kind of think that sometimes people get in that mode of, all right, I just need to be sure that I can survive in retirement because I don't have a job. They don't really allow themselves to feel and think about what the possibilities are.
Well, and I think it's because they get stuck on the financial side of it. And I'm kind of on that end, honestly, at this point, because I'm not a visionary by nature. So for me, it's more about making sure I'm financially in a good place. But I also know from being in the meeting room, it's important to have more than just a vision of what kind of income you need. But that is a place to start. If you're in those pre-retirement years, you need to understand where you're trying to get to, even financially, before you can start dreaming.
Scott, I will say that the success of your retirement really is borne out in this pre-planning time, this pre-retirement planning time. Because if you don't have a plan, then what will happen? Well, you're liable to do anything with that money. You're liable to say, oh, hey, the piggy bank is open. Let's go do all the things that we've been, putting off all these years because we've been working. And then you come back home and you've spent all this money and you've done all these things. And then you look up and you go, oh, wow, I've got a pretty big chunk of my life that I've got to have income for. And maybe I've spent a lot of money trying to, pay off the house, pay off the car, do this, do that, take this trip, or whatever the case may be. Planning keeps you from falling in the ditch in those situations.
Yeah, the earlier you come in and build a written financial plan, the more time you have to do something about what it's going to look like in retirement. People think about retirement as the finish line of their race. It's not really. We would call it a mile marker. You're not really stopping. It's not an all halt. You're going to actually, from an investment perspective, you're going to need to still have a strategy that is built for the duration rather than getting too conservative. But from a time spend perspective or a time a season of life perspective, it is the end of something. It is the transition into another spot. And if you don't do any planning prior to that time, that moment in time, then you're going to get what you get, right? I mean, maybe you've thrown a few dollars at your 401k, maybe you've thrown lots of dollars at your 401k, but you have arrived and you're going to have to plan for a retirement income with what you have. The earlier you come in to see a financial advisor and build a written financial plan for retirement, the more time you have to do something about
And
it.
I think one thing that people get nervous about, or what might prevent them from what I've experienced in the room, is they feel like they have to have all of the answers before they walk in the door. Right. There's very few answers that have to be definitive when you're meeting with an advisor, and we're going to help you with those. But you do have to just generally know where you want to go before we can build a roadmap. So don't see it as this, I've got to come in educated situation. No, you come in with some basic ideas, and we'll ask the questions to get the rest of it out of you.
Yeah, we just need you to be coachable, right?
Yes.
I mean, when you come in, if that's the mindset, that's the emotional side of pre-retirement, is be coachable, be willing to change, and be willing to create a discipline to get there. All right, so the second stage of retirement is called the big day, and that could be a day, that could be maybe a prolonged week. We've had some clients who retired and they had a month-long celebration. Depends on where they work, right?
Oh, yeah.
You think of some of the employers that we have, they really celebrate people and their retirement. But it's the smiles, it's the handshakes, the farewells, whether it's a day or a month, it is by far the shortest stage in the retirement process. It's the act of retiring itself, often marked by some sort of dinner, party, or other celebration. We've created a few of those celebratory moments here in this office when we know people are retiring. This is the excitement. The danger here, I guess I would say, is the excitement can reach a peak here, right? If you don't have the emotional state through these other stages planned correctly. Yeah,
it can be hard, and there's always mixed emotions, and there's sometimes fear during this time. People are celebrating on the outside, but deep inside they're going, oh my God, what am I doing?
Yes.
So I get it. And I've seen those things happen time and time again, but it is certainly something to celebrate because you are moving from one phase of your life. You're moving from work to life, quite frankly. You're moving into that stage of financial independence, that financial freedom that you've sought for all these years. It's finally here, and it is definitely worthy to celebrate.
When you think about I relate everything that we're talking about back to the plan. That's just kind of how we're built right here. But we talked about the effect of planning on pre-retirement. that you have time to do something before you actually reach that day. But think about the effect of planning on the big day.
Especially this year.
Yeah.
You know, I have clients who were planning to retire this year, and had we not gotten started previously and utilized in-service withdrawals to kind of set things up like we had, they may have been in the position to have to delay.
Yeah.
And so that taking time in advance to prepare for that single day really set them up to win now, even though the market hasn't been particularly helpful.
You know, guys, we've talked a lot about being prepared and coming in early and all that type of thing. I don't want to dissuade someone who is on the threshold of retirement. It's going to happen at the end of the year, and they haven't come in, they haven't planned. Oh, well, it's too late for me. No, it's really not. You really need to have that plan on paper on purpose, because the plan is really, it's good to plan early, but the plan really is about what happens after that retirement day for the next 20 or 30 years. And that needs to be in place regardless of where you are on that journey.
Yeah, we have certainly met with people who are retiring in a month.
Yes.
Maybe have already retired. Yes.
Last Friday, I had one that retired, and she just, again, she didn't have any, she was kind of scared, honestly. Market has dipped. She was meeting us for the first time. But when we sat down and we talked through the process and what we're going to do, you could see her just melt. And she was like, oh, I can really retire?
Yeah.
And we were able to say, yes, you can, and here's why, and went through the plan with her.
That's a great point, especially when you relate it to this year. You know, the idea of coming in and having your portfolio built a little differently. You did mention something, and I want to go back and catch that. It's a little bit off the topic, but you talked about the in-service distributions, the in-service withdrawals. I do think it's a good education point to describe what that is for pre-retirees.
Sure. For many employer plans, they have this option for you when you reach age 59 and a half to be able to pull what's existing in your employer plan out and move it to a traditional IRA. You still get to add to your employer plan until you're ready to retire, but what it allows you to do is take what's in there out and use that to set up your plan to kind of get things in motion so that when you do retire, it's already prepped and ready for you.
So that was number 2 in our 6 stages of retirement, is the actual big day. So you've got the pre-retirement planning time. The big day comes, and now you actually enter life after work. And what is the first stage of retirement emotionally? It's the honeymoon phase. I think that's an overused term, but we know what it means, right?
Yes.
I mean, the honeymoon is, in a marriage, it's considered that first year when everything is still, you've got stars in your eyes, or you've got hearts in your eyes, and everything's just great in the marriage. And it's kind of the same in retirement. You walk into that, you haven't experienced much yet. It's very, very new. And for a lot of people, it can be a lot of golf. It could be a lot of fishing. It could be doing all of the things that you really didn't have time to do, or at least have time to do on the level that you have the time to do them now.
And if you plan properly from a financial standpoint, Scott, I think you've got the freedom to do those things. If you haven't planned properly and you go on a spending spree during this time, this honeymoon can come back to bite you. So you really do need to be prepared for this, but it is a very blissful time. It is very, I guess, one of those things that you so much look forward to, and you really do enjoy it. But then it's like I've told many male retirees, there's only so much fishing you can do. There's only so many golf balls you can hit. There's so many vacations that you will tolerate going on. Life continues on, and you've got to look at that, and that's where this next phase can come in, and that's the disenchantment phase.
Yeah, and when you think about that you talked about the spending spree that you can go on. I think that really we're full transparency, every one of these stages we're going to relate back to the plan, right? Because it is so important. But I think about it every time one of you says something about that emotionally, but it goes back to how that a plan can really affect the emotion in a positive way. You talk about the spending spree. Somebody thinks the piggy bank is open when the day I retire. Our plans here are retirement income plans that show you on paper how much you're going to be receiving on a monthly basis, right? So you think about how that adds a peace of mind to you on taking it out monthly over the course of a potentially 30-year retirement versus not really knowing how much I can take and what that's going to mean for me later.
Yes, and this works for 2 sides of the spectrum. There are those that might be inclined to overspend in their retirement, but more often than not, people are scared to spend.
Yes.
I had a client who, they were going to Hawaii, and this was a big deal for them. They had done a great job of accumulating. They had the funds to do it, and they were going, but they were like, when we were talking about it, it was like, well, we're just going to go. We're not going to do much. We're just going to kind of hang out. And Janet and I were in that appointment, and she goes, whoa, you've got got to go on this helicopter ride. You've got to do this. And he's like, well, I don't know if we can afford it. So we went through the plan and we said, well, here's your income. You're not even taking what you can. What if we sent you a little extra for a couple of months, so, up to your limit, but that way you could do it. And it helped them feel comfortable spending their money, because if you've been saving for 30 years, sometimes it's hard to see those dollars come back out.
I sat with a client yesterday, in fact, and we're working up onto his retirement date, and it's moved up. It's been moved up because he's not real happy at his job. He's going to retire at 60. He just actually this week turns 58. So he'll be 59. So next year from January is going to be his retirement date. And he's got lots of guaranteed income sources. We've got a military pension in play. He's going to have a FERS pension in play. He's going to have Social Security. His guaranteed income is pretty much going to cover his basic lifestyle, right? And his comment to me was when we updated because he's moving up his retirement date and wanting to know how much he'll have on a monthly basis. His comment to me was, I can make it on what I've got. I don't need these investments. And then he said, but I don't want to live that way.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to live that way. I want to see what I can spend. Maybe he won't. He probably won't take it all on a monthly basis. Or maybe he does and it stacks up in his savings account. But he's going to be able to do what he wants to do because he has that income plan.
I want you to think about the two examples you guys have talked about here. What we have delivered in these client meeting rooms is freedom.
Yes.
It is the permission to go into your investment accounts and say, I want to do this. Am I financially capable of doing this without wrecking my plan? You've given that opportunity to do that. You've said, look, we've evaluated this. We know where you are. We feel like this is a good option for you. Go do what you want to do. And I think that is really where freedom comes about. It's not about asking our permission to do it. It's about us giving you advice that you can do it.
Whether it's a license to spend more than you thought you could, or it's a way to keep the curbs on, keep the training wheels on so you don't overspend in that honeymoon phase. You have that written plan to know what your monthly income is going to be.
Another thing to think about with this disenchantment that, John, I used to hear you say in the meeting room, and I say in mine too, is that we tell people all the time, you have to be retiring to something. It's not just about the financial side of things. We have clients who are in great shape financially, but just honestly don't want to sit at home, or they don't have something to fill their time, so they end up taking a part-time job. It's really important to vision cast what you want to do, whether that's volunteering, a part-time job to keep you busy and kind of engaged, or it's some sort of passion you have that you've never gotten to pursue before. Make sure you've taken time to not just take care of the financial side of this, but to also prepare yourself for what you're going to do with your time.
Yeah, you really do. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, I will always remember one particular client we helped to retire many years ago, and he had plenty of money to retire, plenty of income, didn't need any more income or anything. And I'm thinking, he's tending to his garden and he's doing all this stuff. And I get a phone call from him one day. And he's clearly on the road, and there's just a bunch of road noise and a loud, engine and everything. And I said, what are you doing? And he goes, I got me a part-time job. I couldn't stay at home anymore. I got me a part-time job. I said, you don't need the income. He said, no, it wasn't about the income. It was about having something to do. And I think that's really cool. And I think there's a lot of people that are doing this thing that we have come to call work-tirement here at GenWealth, because it really is kind of a hybrid between work and retirement. You get to go do something that you want to do as opposed to what you have to do. Now, this guy was doing highly technical work before he retired, and now he's driving a truck for somebody. And so, each to his own. I don't have any problem with what he was doing, but the key here is that you've got the freedom to do that and to create a life that doesn't lead you to disenchantment, but allows you to live a completely different life. And that's a big leap in thinking for a lot of people.
You think about the client I was just talking about that I talked with yesterday. One of his hobbies is woodworking. And he in this meeting, we were talking about that retirement income and everything. And he said, well, I probably won't. He saw the paper, the plan on paper on purpose, and he started to look at the income. And he said, well, I probably won't try to take much of that because I also have a plan to sell some of my woodworking, right? And he does like cutting boards in the shape of the state of Arkansas, Razorbacks, things like that. And he said it's in demand. People are really wanting it. So he's able to develop out. You talked about your friend that needed something to do, or your client rather, that needed something to do. I also think about people who can take a hobby that they have and really develop it out and get a monetized value of it. Don't really care how much it is, but he gets what he gets. But that is a great opportunity to ease in as well and have something to do and have some purpose. So
and I think there's something cathartic there about the ability to still go out and make some money and then take that money and go do something fun with it. That there's something there psychologically that does help people to avoid this disenchantment that we're talking about.
All right, so the fifth stage of retirement is reorientation or building a new identity. I don't know that everybody goes through this, but if you go through those previous phases and you have that disenchantment, you likely are. You know, the letdown phase of retirement doesn't last forever if you choose to move past it. Retirees will begin to familiarize themselves with the landscape of their new circumstances and navigate their lives accordingly. But there are some questions I'm sure that they have to ask. You know, who am I now? And we talked about purpose. What is my purpose? Am I still useful? You know, I think that's the thing too, is we talk about the things you want to do in retirement, but there is also that aspect of feeling like you are filling a need for someone else or something else.
Yeah, I think that usefulness can come in lots of different capacities, but here's what I know to be true. I know without a doubt that if you are in a situation where you go home and you sit down and you do nothing but watch TV, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get absolutely consumed by the things of this world that are going on that the media is telling you about all day, every day, and your world is going to shrink down to a little dark sphere. I've seen this happen with people. I've seen them just go from a very vibrant person to someone who is very fearful, very concerned about the future of the world and all this type of thing. And if you feed yourself that type of information, that's what you're going to get. But you've got to have a purpose. You've got to get up every day and make your life count for something, or you are going to fall into that disenchantment, and that making your life count for something is this reorientation that we're talking about.
And I think there are a lot of different times in your life where you have to ask yourself, who am I? What do I want from life? What do I have to give? And I think it's really important that you take some time, whether you're in disenchantment or you're getting ready to retire, to start thinking about that, because we're all built for purpose. We're all built to do different things, and we all have value to add. And I think if you can take a minute to remember that about yourself, what you love, what drives you, and find a way to do that, I think you're going to just have much more joy.
I think I'll use this opportunity to plug the physical side as well. We didn't really put this on our content plan, but all of this kind of leads into that. To be able to fulfill that purpose, to feel useful, to not sit on the couch and look at Facebook or watch TV all the time, you need to pay attention to your physical well-being too. You know, your eating habits, your exercise. Man, you've got more time to exercise than you've ever had. You know, that's my biggest impediment to exercise is it needs
time.
It needs
Did you
to
say
be convenient.
impediment? Did you mean excuse?
It is an excuse. You're right.
Because we all do it. Don't get me wrong.
It's not a lack of time. It's a lack of convenient time.
Yes.
You know, I don't want to do it at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's when I've got to do it right now. So when you're in retirement, you've got lots of time to do that, and you'll meet people, right? You'll go out and work out in places where you'll be around people, and the social aspects of that so important as well. Okay, let's move.
So I'm just going to say that we're going to do a little experiment here with Scott. We're going to get a Peloton, and we're going to set it in the West Little Rock office, and let's see how much it gets you.
See if it changes things.
Yeah.
You may not want to make that move.
Well,
it depends on if it's a bike or a treadmill. I'm not going to do a bike. We're going to do a treadmill?
we'll see.
You put me a treadmill in here, and I think you'll see me drop some weight.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm telling you, if it's there and I can fit it into the day.
Hey, it's public now. He's throwing it out on
So
public
we'll reach out to
broadcasting.
his family and let him know this.
There you go.
Funny thing is, I just bought a treadmill.
Ah.
Yeah, so I shouldn't have done that if you were going to provide a GenWealth treadmill. All right, our final one is routine or moving on. So a new daily schedule is created. We talked about all that, reorientation, finding purpose. All that will hopefully lead to a new schedule, new ground rules for how you spend your time, and a new identity at least partially created, and you have really recreated yourself at that point.
Let's talk about those ground rules,
Yeah.
because here's what really happens in retirement. Usually it plays out this way. The husband invades the territory of the wife, and there is instant conflict. You left your stuff out. You didn't put this up where it needs to go. You did this, you did that. You're always in the way. You want lunch, all of that type of thing. There is that just, when people go their separate ways at 7 o'clock in the morning, going to their jobs, and then come back together at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever the case may be, there is routine there. But if there is a routine that the wife has had at home and she's been doing things a certain way, and now there's another person around, then that can really create some real issues.
Some chaos for sure. And I think it's important when you're in that phase, if you're married, to rethink roles, because you have an opportunity to really become partners in everything to a degree. At my stage of life, we're like two ships passing in the night. We make sure all the things get done, but we're usually one of us is going this way while the other's going that way. So when you're nearing retirement, before you enter it, it'd be really good to go ahead and proactively talk through this. But if you're in retirement, take some time to have those conversations. They are a little tough about what you guys are going to do every day and kind of redefining what your marriage is going to look like in retirement. And if you're solo during that time, it's okay to take some time to reevaluate what matters to you. Maybe you don't care about making your bed every day or things like that. It's okay to do that now.
One of the biggest things that people plan for after they retire, building a shop.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they have a place to go.
Spend their days.
That's right.
My grandpa did that.
Yep.
I know very much what you're talking about.
There you go.
And you know who are more in tune with the reality of that situation than probably anybody? It's a husband and wife who both had to work from home during COVID.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I have a few clients that
absolutely.
had to do that. And like, I haven't seen her so much this year, but ever. And, you do have to get used to that daily life for sure, minus the work, of course. All right, so those 6 stages, those are the stages of retirement, particularly focusing on the emotional state. You've got the pre-retirement or planning time phase. The big day arrives. That's number 2. The honeymoon phase of feeling free and perhaps, as John mentioned, going on a spending spree and the danger of that when it comes to your assets. The disenchantment phase, so this is it. You've played your golf. You've fished a few times. You've knitted. You've gone to do the things that you really look forward to doing. And then how long can you really do that before a state of disillusionment sets in? Then there's the reorientation phase, which is building a new identity. And then finally, the routine and moving on. We have highlighted, I think, in this, John and Teresa, how planning can help with the emotional state. There is a tie-in of going through the financial planning process to your emotions. You don't think about that. It's X's and O's or it's numbers on a page. It is science, it's math, but it is also a little bit of art.
It is, and the GenWealth Ready to Retire process is here to kind of make some sense of all of this. And so when you think about what we do in the Ready to Retire process, it looks like this. There's an investment strategy. Clearly, you have to have an investment strategy to produce the income that you're looking for. You've got to maximize Social Security. You've got to understand the details of Social Security and maximize it for your plan. You've also got to create some guaranteed income to support your basic living expenses. You need to protect against inflation. We all know what inflation has done in the last year. We need to be sure that we don't fall ravaged to inflation in the coming years. Address long-term care needs. There's going to come a day when you need long-term care, and you need to be sure that you plan for that. Also, reducing your taxes during retirement, and all documented on plans on paper, on purpose, with your Ready to Retire plan.
If you want to step into that Ready to Retire process, it's just a simple phone call, 866-653-PLAN. That's 866-653-7526. You heard the final bell. It's time for our final thoughts. Teresa, we'll start with you.
Well, here's the deal, guys. Retirement is going to be new to you. It's going to be something you've never experienced before. But it's not new to us. This is what we do every day, is helping people get ready for that. And your plan has to account for all the different stages you're going to face during retirement and help prepare you for those so that you can enjoy your retirement.
And I think that, Teresa, to piggyback off of what you're talking about here, your plan is not your investments.
Correct.
The fact that you've got a statement that says where your money is and what is invested in, that is not a plan. That is an investment strategy that someone has put together for you. The plan is more highly detailed, and it really does involve all these phases of your life that you're going to go through during that time. So get a plan for financial independence that includes everything, not just your investments.
And my final thought is another invitation to join us for our Financial Security Town Hall. It is coming up December 6th at the Delta Hotel in Little Rock. The program will start at 6:30. Doors will open at 6. We'll be talking about the future of Social Security and the financial markets as well. And we want you to bring your questions because it is going to be a town hall, which means there's plenty of Q&A. It's absolutely free. We'll have some food there as well. You can learn more about the event, and most importantly, you can reserve your spot by going to getreadyforthefuture.com/academy. That's getreadyforthefuture.com/academy to register for our free Financial Security Town Hall. And that's all the time we have for this week's Get Ready for the Future show. Hope you enjoyed and got some education out of the 6 stages of retirement. We'll be back again next week for the first show in December. Hope you'll join us.
The GenWealth Financial Team is available to you 24/7 at info@getreadyforthefuture.com or call our offices at 866-653-PLAN. That's 866-653-7526. You should personally consult a financial advisor before making any investment, and no strategy can assure success. Securities offered through LPL Financial. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Independent Advisor Alliance. Independent Advisor Alliance and GenWealth Financial Advisors are separate entities from LPL Financial.